if other than the TV station was in there, and they said they didn't have a problem, but nobody called me, so I never went back in. It wasn't a problem. I get all my information from the flag man. It's not a problem. I don't need to sit there and watch the corruption live. I can always get a little bit about it later on. So we have some good news that the government did. When you have a business, there's a commercial business tax, and every year you have to fill that out in June and submit it. And you don't have to pay any tax if you make under $4 million a year. So somebody from the government must have realized, wow, there's thousands of businesses that don't make $4 million a year. Maybe we should have them stop filling out the paperwork, because we're paying all these government employees to look at paperwork with a bunch of goose eggs on it. So somebody actually had an idea, well, maybe they figured they were lazy and they wouldn't have to go through all that mail. But it was good for the business person. Anybody making under $4 million a year, and there's plenty of businesses that don't make $4 million a year. Take it. So that was this year, no longer filing that paperwork. So they streamlined the government a little bit. I guess they got smart. We can't get any money out of them, so why should we do any work? Which actually had to help, because if your fiscal year is from January to December, and you have to do this paperwork in June, well, now you have to figure out what your sales are going to be from June to December, and if you make a mistake, you get a fine. So it's just stupid. Most of government agencies, not that the people that work there are stupid, it's just that their rules and regulations are ridiculous. I'm trying to, this is good. So it's reported that there's about 36,000 homeless people in LA alone, which I think there's probably more than that. It's just that they don't have a grasp on how many there really are. But they're reporting that there's 36,000 homeless in LA alone. So on Facebook, there was a person who posted a picture. Californians are calling homeless camps Pelosi villages. And then it had a picture of homeless camps. It actually looked like a landfill with people standing in it. That's how disgusting and messy it was. And underneath it says, let's make this her legacy. Let's make her famous for Pelosi villages. So it was posted from somebody else, and it was on the Dan Phillips page and it was also on Godfather Vegas. So I look at it and I'm saying to myself, well, what Facebook is doing today, because they have an agenda with the progressive socialists, not to make any progressive socialists look bad, they start taking this stuff down. So I said to Dan, I says, do me a favor and write all the talking back and forth from you and whoever else was responding to this on a piece of paper, so we have it for the show. So he does it. The next day, it's gone. The post of Pelosi villages are gone. So I hope you bear with me, because I'm horrible at reading out loud. So we got this post, and this person, Ron C., I'm not going to give his last name, says after the post, and how exactly do you think that she contributed to people being homeless? So Dan writes, she don't help them not be homeless, right? Ron writes back, how is it that you think she failed to help them? Well, common sense would be because they're still homeless. That's how she failed to help them. Dan writes, list 10 things she did to help them. So Dan's asking Ron, list 10 things, because he's a Pelosi lover. Give us 10 things that she did to help these people. So he writes back, and you can see that he's starting to get angry, because it said, list 10 thongs she did not help homeless. Stop changing the subject, because Dan asked him a question, so now he's mad at Dan because he can't think of 10 things she did to help. Okay, the progressive socialist did to help these people. He couldn't list it, so he's yelling about changing the subject. So Dan looks up this guy Ron, and he lives in Vegas, but it says he's from California. So Dan writes, "Why did you leave Cali?" You know, that's the progressive people call California Cali because it's cool. Okay. So Dan writes, "Why did you leave Cali?" And Ron writes, "To help family, don't change the subject." Okay, so he's stumbling for a situation. So now a third person chimes in, a woman named Denise. I think the better question is, how has she helped them? And then one person liked it, another person had an angry face. Emoji, angry. So now we got a conversation going here, so it's pretty good. And the reason why I'm reading this is, not that I don't have anything else to talk about, but I want to show you how insane these people get. So Ron writes, I believe it is for the person that posted the fake news to prove that it is real news. Okay, so nobody from here was the person that posted it. It was dragged in from somebody else. If the person that posted the fake news has no basis for fact, for his opinion, it is not his opinion, and it should get new opinion that was based on fact. Okay, well, how do you figure it's fact? You're looking at the picture, the people are homeless and they're still homeless. Is anybody helping them? So Dan writes, make Nevada great again. Move the Cali people back to Cali. So now this guy's on fire. So Ron posts lies, can't answer questions, has no opinion of his own. Yep, that's the Tea Party birthers right there. So Dan writes back, Bertha, what's that? He doesn't know what a birther is. Okay. So Ron writes back to him, a birther is someone that believes Obama is a Muslim socialist from Kenya, but don't want to see Trump's taxes. I don't understand where this is. So you know the guy is a lefty or a progressive socialist because he's worried about Trump's taxes. First of all, Trump don't have to show his taxes. And I must not be a birther because I don't know what Dan believes, but I don't believe that Obama was born in Kenya. I believe he definitely was born in Hawaii, but his father was not from Kenya. His father was a communist from Chicago named Frank Davis Marshall, who was a photographer in Hawaii who took naked pictures of Obama's mother and ended up having sex with her, and he was the father. And the grandfather of Obama went to this gentleman from Kenya and asked him to please let us put your name on his birth certificate because they didn't want Frank Davis Marshall's name on the birth certificate because he was a communist. And he took pictures and wrote for a communist newspaper. So I guess I'm not a birther because I do believe he was born in Hawaii. His last name's really not Obama, it's just the birth certificate. So Denise laughs. She puts a little laughing emoji on there. So Ron writes, Tea Party birthers are the dumbest people still alive on this planet after all the Nazis died. Okay, so I don't understand where all of this comes from. So Dan writes, God bless you. And Denise likes what Dan writes. We still have a little bit more time? Okay. All right, why don't we take a break and I'll finish this when we come back. Thanks.
Support for KPFF comes from B&P Dirt Work offers all-purpose backhoe for driveways and fifth wheel pads, digging trenches, clearing lots and fields, and more. B&P Dirt Work is licensed, insured, and happy to work for you. More information at 702-540-0961. That's 702-540-0961.
All statements heard on this station are that of the program hosts, co-hosts, guests, and callers alone, and are not necessarily those of this station or its affiliates.
Hello, this is LD, Lazy Dog Michael John. I'm going to host a show Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. called Lazy Dog's Front Porch. Why don't you come on by, crawl up on the porch, pull up a chair, and join me. We're going to have a good time. We're going to chat about this and that, everything else. We might even become interesting. We'll just see where it goes. Sunday night, 7 p.m. on KPFF.
Hello, listeners. Want to know what talk programs are broadcast by KPFF? The KPFF program guide is now on our Pahrump Film Festival website. If you want to see what's coming up this week on KPFF, just go to www.pahrumfilmfestival.org. As programs are added or changed, so will the guide. That's www.pahrumfilmfestival.org for the best talk programs in Pahrump.
This is 97.7, Pahrump's community radio station.
Okay, and welcome back. So I want to finish this up with that. So after Dan tells him God bless you and Denise laughs, Dan writes, the founders gave you the right to speak your mind. Me too. He writes back, I wish you did, instead of just repeating white nationalist lies like you've been trained to do. That's what he thinks that Dan is saying. And Denise puts a laughing emoji on it. So Dan writes again, I am not white, sorry, and then Denise laughs. And then he writes again, because the guy's not responding now, because now, when Dan said he wasn't white, the guy doesn't know what to say, because he just called him a white nationalist and a liar. So, he writes, I do not want a corrupt government, do you? And Denise likes that. Dan writes again, fighting government corruption, the real gangsters. No answer, no response, and then Dan puts a whole bunch of question marks, wants to know what's going on. So we got a call. I'm just going to finish this part because it's funny. So Ron writes back, if you believe, he thinks we're white nationalists good. If you believe that Columbus discovered America and that George Washington chopped down a cherry tree and had wooden teeth, if you believe that Vietnam and Korea were a police action, then you are a white nationalist and it doesn't matter what color your skin is. And Denise laughs. Okay, we're going to go to a caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Raven Flag Man, I'm very interested in the remark you just made as far as Frank Marshall. He's the real father of Obama, and I mean, that's what you said, right?
That's the truth.
It's a communist photographer from Chicago.
Frank Davis Marshall was a communist photographer in a communist newspaper in Chicago. He was in Hawaii. He knew Obama's grandfather. Obama's grandfather was a CIA guy, and he knew him. And the Obama guy from Kenya, the father, was a student at that college, and Obama's grandfather asked him, Barack's grandfather asked him to put his name on the birth certificate. The guy from Kenya didn't want to do it because he was married in Kenya. And the grandfather, I don't know if he paid him, I don't know the whole story, but he talked him into doing it because he did not want, you could have people look it up online, Frank David Marshall was a communist who was a photographer, a newspaper, and was in Hawaii, who had the naked pictures of Obama's mother. They end up having sex, and he's Obama's father.
So this Frank Marshall, he must have been black then, huh?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I mean, that's what throws through me, you know what I'm saying? Well, how, you know,
Well, they actually have pictures of him on the internet. If somebody you know can go on the internet, you could see pictures of him.
well, this is enlightening.
And he had.
I never knew nothing like this.
He's had.
This is really something.
Listen,
a couple things I want to point out
Go
on
ahead.
the show, because I know you ended early, a few minutes early.
Uh-huh.
I want to compliment once again Lisa Shamley on the fine job she's doing in the court. You know, you got a chance to talk to her also. I hope you do have the opportunity to get her back on the show, because she would be a good guest.
Definitely.
She's doing fantastic things. She's refusing to lock people up. They can't pay a fine. She works something out with them. It's very refreshing to see someone giving people a break. Compassion,
Yes.
you know, from the bench. So that's one thing I want to point out. The second thing is, I was listening to a different radio show this morning. Dan, I hope there's not eternal damnation for that.
Definitely not.
Announced a birthday. Happy birthday to Leo Blundo.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
They put it on the radio today.
Oh, okay.
So, and it say today's birthday, you know, so it was yesterday?
Well, yeah, well, the pictures were on Facebook yesterday.
Oh, okay. And then, what you were saying about, the new thing gonna be at 2 o'clock on Sundays?
Yes.
Something about you're gonna give like some details on records or recording groups, is that correct?
Actually, yeah, it's not going to be like Lancaster's show. They're not going to play any music. They're just going to do the history of that group or the single artist. It's going to be like a biography of it. So it'll be an hour for each, either group or individual for the hour, and people will be able to call in and talk to Dee. And
What's the name of the fellow running it?
it's a woman named Dee.
All right. Well, I'm gonna check it out, because I'm a rock and roll fan. Matter of fact, I still have a record label out of Chicago that I haven't used since '66. But the history on these groups, you know, there's fascinating stuff. You know, some groups had fallen apart, and then someone would start playing a record, and they get back together and be sensation. I think it was, let's see, Crimson and Clover, what their group is. I can't remember the name.
Tommy James and the Shondells.
Right. And they didn't make it, and all of a sudden somebody played one of the records and became a hit. So these are some of the things that happened. As far as Thomas Jefferson, he just had it on the news yesterday, or maybe it was today that I seen it. They said that parts of the Declaration of Independence were edited out. And they pointed out was Jefferson's attitude on slavery. He wanted slavery abolished, but he did not want the slaves just released in the States.
Right.
Wanted them transported back to Africa. And that was his whole plan. No more slavery, and he owned slaves at the time, but he didn't want to just cut them loose. He was going to send them back to Africa, and that was the whole theory.
And you know, behind that, Lincoln actually went to Congress and asked them for $400,000 to build ships to bring the people back to where they came from, and Congress denied it.
Well, Lincoln, you're right. Lincoln wanted to, say, okay, they were kidnapped or whatever, send them back to Africa, which was, and then Lincoln being assassinated, it never went any further. I didn't know about he was asking Congress for money.
It was $400,000 to build ships to bring those people back.
And they wanted to go. I don't think he would have forced anything.
No, he wasn't going to force anything, but anybody who wanted to go back, he was given the opportunity to go back to their home country.
And now they're getting so technical on this race deal. I mean, it's incredible what the Democrats are doing. I'm watching this on TV, and the slightest nuance where maybe it pertains to something black or something, they're hammering on Trump. They're even hammering on Biden. You know what I mean? He's one of them. So like you said, they're eating their own.
Let me tell you, Trump was a Democrat. Okay, he's a New Yorker. I could show you pictures of him with Al Sharpton, shaking hands, hugging. I could show you pictures of him with Jesse Jackson. They all loved him because he had cash and he was a Democrat. All of a sudden, he became conservative and a constitutionalist, and now they all hate him.
Yeah.
But they all took his cash.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You know who was a Democrat before Republican was Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
You know, people don't know that. I've read books where he would actually go to dinner parties with high-level Democrats and everything else, and then finally he just didn't like the way the party was going, and he jumped ship and went to be a Republican, and he actually sent me a couple letters when he was in office, because I wrote to him. It's not like he just knows me. I wrote the letters and he answered them, you know. So I passed out copies when I was running for sheriff last time, letters from Reagan. This Dennis Hoff was an admirer of Reagan, so I walked up to him one day and I just handed him a copy of the letter, and he was kind of surprised that the flag man, Ray Yelchinski, getting this letter from Ronald Reagan, you know. It was fun handing those things out, really. Some people wouldn't take them, but they didn't like Reagan.
Right. A lot of people didn't like Reagan,
So that's how...
I liked him.
Yeah.
He may have not been the greatest president. Yeah, he may... Go ahead.
Tear down this wall was one of them. I like the one where he said he was his opponent. He was saying that he criticized him for being so young.
Yes.
Young and inexperienced. You know, he just had an act. Because he was an actor. He was really. They asked him if he was afraid of something. He says, "No, I'm not afraid of it because I actually used to be in films with Errol Flynn, and that's something to be terrified of." You know what I mean? I really like the guy. All right, I think you got a good show tonight. I'm going to let you get on with it, and I want to know more about that 2 o'clock on Sunday. So I'm going to listen next week Sunday and see what it starts next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if we can get everything together, it'll start 2 o'clock next week.
All right, I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Keep the faith, power to the people. Ray the flag man. Over and out. Have a good night.
You have a good night, too. So now we got this guy saying that Columbus didn't discover America, which he didn't. He never landed on the continental United States. He actually hit the Dominican Republic. Okay, and yeah, Washington chopping down a cherry tree was just to show that he was honest. It really didn't happen. That I can't prove it, so why would I think that? And so here this guy, because of your thoughts, even if you're not white, you're a white nationalist. So what he's trying to say here is the white man is the ruination of everything. I've been through that in New York, and in the 80s and 90s, it was, yeah, this is going all the way back to the 80s. So then this guy writes again. He doesn't give a chance for Dan to respond. If you hate Nancy Pelosi but cannot assimilate one reason, why then are you a Tea Party birther? Okay, well, I thought the Tea Party was dead. And I'm definitely not a birther, so the guy, he just likes to throw nonsense out. So he writes again, if you believe Pelosi is a corrupt government and Donald Trump isn't, then you are just plain idiots. Okay, so because I don't believe, well, Dan believes pretty much what I do too, because we're on the same page. So Dan's an idiot because he believes that Trump's not corrupt. That's all well. So Dan writes, thank you for calling him an idiot. He writes, thank you. No, thank the founding fathers, because he's saying the founding fathers gave you the right of free speech. So, bingo. And Denise likes that. You know, they do the emoji stuff. So Dan writes, so how do you label Ron? Okay, because he's throwing this birther stuff at Dan and everything. So Dan wants to know how he labels himself, because the guy's into labels. And Denise puts a little like on there.